Chapter 12, Leadership, Power, and Influence. Objectives. Explain how leaders use power and politics to help accomplish important organizational goals. Describe the four major styles of influential leadership: transformational, charismatic, coalitional, and Machiavellian. Explain the difference between soft power and hard power. Identify the specific types of power used by leaders. Describe cultural, human resource, political, symbolic frames of reference and political tactics for applying pressure. Understand that effective leaders don't use power to exploit others for personal gains. So in this chapter, we're going to talk about primarily these kinds of influential leaderships. You have transformational, transactional, charismatic, and coalitional. And all of them are different. Transformational and transactional leadership. Transformational leadership. Leadership characterized by the ability to bring about significant change in followers in the organization. Basically, these people can take you from one place to another, take an organization from one place to another, and people will follow. Transactional leadership. Transaction or exchange process between leaders and followers. So for the leader and the follower, this is when you have a situation where the leader, well, if I give you something, then you do something. Transactional leadership recognizes followers' needs and desires. Clarify how those needs and desires will be satisfied in exchange for many specific goals or performing duties. Focuses on the present to maintain stability within the organization. Is good at traditional management functions. So when you look at that, it's like, okay, a transactional could be is, hey, if you guys can go and pull this project and get it done in 30 days, then I'll make sure you all get a 5% raise. That's a transactional a deal right there. Transformational leadership paints a grand vision of a desired future and communicates it in a way that makes the pain of change worth it. Inspires followers to go beyond their own self-interest for the good of the group. Elevates concerns of followers from lower level physical needs to higher level psychological needs. Develops followers into leaders. So this is the type of people when you want to take I'll give you an example. If you had an organization that was failing, you fire the CEO and you bring in another CEO and he's a transformational leader. That person is going to try to bring you back from the brink of death, this organization. But not only is he looking to bring you back, to turn it back around, make you profitable, he's also looking at how do I take us, advance us into the future? And how do I get my people to buy into my philosophy and follow me and go? And they're good at that. Transformational leaders are very inspirational. Charismatic leaders who have the ability to inspire and motivate people to do more than they would normally do, despite obstacles and personal sacrifice. Again, this is when you think of leaders, I'll give you an example. And I'm going to use a sports analogy here. When you have a basketball team and they've been playing bad, and at halftime, they go and the coach talks to them and tells them, you know what, you guys are better than this. I believe in you. You can beat this team. We've beat them before. And you know what? You're going to find a way to do it today. And so now they were 10 points down. They end up winning the game by 10 because they had a charismatic coach who inspired and motivated them. When they were not performing, he actually motivated them to do what they needed to do. Charismatic leadership instills in both awe and submission in the followers. It can lift the entire organization level of energy and performance. Charisma can't be learned, but aspects can be used by anyone. Comes from activities that you have a passion for, engages emotions in everyday work life. So when you have a charismatic leader, it's not like a light switch. They turn it on and turn it off. They're charismatic all the time for the most part. And I will tell you this, that's not something that you can say, I'm going to read a book to learn how to be one. That's something I've seen people, they can be a charismatic leader or they can't. Now you can be charismatic at times, but you may not be able to pull it off to be a leader full time. And this is something that they're always looking to inspire and motivate folks. And people believe, as a matter of fact, they even have, a lot of them have the gift of gab. They can even speak in eloquent terms and things like that, but they can captivate you with just their words and their passion and their energy. Distinguishing characteristics of charismatic and non-charismatic leaders. So likability, non-charismatic leaders, shared perspective makes leaders likable. Charismatic leaders share perspective and idealization vision, make the leader likable, and an honorable, worthy hero of identification. So, in relation to the status quo, tries to maintain the status quo, non-charismatic. Charismatic creates an atmosphere of change. Bottom line is this: we know that we're trying to change and get better and do things. And when you look at future goals, non-charismatic, their limit goals not to discrepant from status quo. So they're not going to buck the status quo for the most part. Charismatic leader is going to be someone who's actually highly looking to discrepant from the status quo. They're looking to break away from it altogether because they don't believe in the status quo. It's like, no, because if we did, we would just be another dog back in the pack. We want to be the lead dog. Articulation, weak articulation of goals and motivation to lead. Charismatic, strong, inspirational articulation of vision and goals and lead. There's no mistake when you're talking about a charismatic what the goals and where they want to go is. Everybody knows what it is. Behavior uses available means to achieve goals within framework of existing order. Charismatic uses unconventional means to transcend existing order. So a charismatic leader is the guy, she is the person who will look at it and say, you know what? We're trying to get here. And she's like, well, I think we need to do this. And this is what non-charismatic leaders, well, we've never done that before. What we've always done is this. Charismatic leaders understand this. If I'm trying to go somewhere where we've never been before or do something we've never done before, then I need to come up with a solution we've never used before. Influence, primary authority of position and rewards. Transcends position, personal power based on expertise and respect and admiration for the leader. So again, you see the difference between a charismatic and a non-charismatic leader. It's not that a non-charismatic leader is bad. It's just that you see how a charismatic leader is actually much better. Coalition leadership. Leadership that involves developing allies and building a coalition of people who support the leader's goals and can help influence others to implement the leader's decision and achievement goals. So this is when the coalition leadership is when the leader that involves developing ally, when he says, I'm going to get other people to help me to move this mountain. Understands and observes and understands patterns of interaction and influence in the organization, develops connections with a broad network of people. Leader adapts their behavior and approach to the diverse people and situations. Failing to build a coalition can allow conflict to derail a leader's vision. So not only do they know how to bring people together, they know how to work to people's strengths and weakness and to work with all the different types of people they have in there. And one of the things that a coalition leader would say is you would never hear him or her say, my. They will always use the word we. We can do this. We are better than this. This is what I expect. We can do these things working together. They promote teamwork every chance they get. Steps for effective coalition leadership. Do many interviews. So when you're looking at coalition, do many interviews. One of the things is you got to get the right type of people. Do many interviews so you can get the right type of people. You can be a coalition leader, but if you're bringing somebody in there who does not play fair in the sandbox and doesn't believe in working in the coalition, that's a problem. Visits customers and other stakeholders. They want to know what's going on. Talking to the customers and the other stakeholders. Get their input. When you get people's input, guess what you also get? Their buy-in. Develop a map of stakeholder buy-in. Develop a map of stakeholder buy-in because you want to know who are my stakeholders, but not only who are my stakeholders, but the priority of them. Who are the stakeholders that I should give the most attention to? Who are the stakeholders I should go to first? And who are my stakeholders who are on the lowest on the totem pole? It's basically a pecking order. Break down barriers and promote cross-silo cooperation. People are notorious for working in silos. Basically, I got my area of responsibility, you got yours, whatever it is. And as long as you don't mess me up, I'm good and stuff. I don't care about what goes on over there. They can break those down and get people to understand this. You know what? We're all interdependent. There is no I in team. Bottom line is this: if we're working together, I can't have you fail while the rest of us succeed, because that means we all fail. So mapping stakeholder buy-in. I just mentioned that. So when you look over here at 60%, these are your stakeholders who will watch change from the sidelines with a neutral attitude. When you look at resistors, stakeholders who defend the status quo and oppose change. These are the ones like, why are you trying that? We've never done that before. That's a little too risky. Why can't we do like we did last time? That's those people. Stakeholders who support change. These are the ones like, you know what? Okay, I think we could do some change. I don't know what that could be, but I can see that what we've done in the past won't work. I just don't know what it would be. So they will support it. And then you get the stakeholders who champion and lead the change, that 10%. So you see, that 10%'s got to move this other 90%. Those are the ones right there you want to champion, who will champion it, and they will motivate everybody else and get everybody else, to include the resistors and the observers. And the ones that would be the most difficult would actually be your resistors. Machiavellian style leadership. Leader is willing to use any means necessary to preserve and protect the well-being of the organization. Leader uses bare knuckle strategies to attain clout needed to accomplish great things. This is something that when you see this is a lot of times, you think of a leader who's heavy-handed in their approach. He's willing to do whatever it takes and stuff. And a lot of times that means they consider what they're doing. They may not consider the people working with them or egos or how they treat people or whatever else. They have a goal in mind and they're going to accomplish it. The characteristics: always on guard for risks and threats to their power. Don't mind being feared. Use deception if necessary. Use rewards and punishments to shape behavior. So if I think about this, one of the people that comes to my mind is, if you're not familiar with this person, just go look him up in history. Genghis Khan, the great Mongol leader of the empire. And he had a famous quote saying, "The beatings will continue until morale improves." These people are heavy-handed, and their thing is they want to be in power. They like being feared. A lot of times they think being feared is the way to lead people. It's how you get loyalty. Use deception if necessary, and they will punish. Power. Power is the potential ability of one person to influence other people to bring about desired outcomes. So what you find sometimes with power, you have some people who get it because they've done a good job, and subsequently they've advanced and they got power. And then you have another group of people, that's what they were intended to get all along. They like power. And that latter group are the ones who usually you should probably steer clear of, because if their ultimate goal is to get power, it usually means by any means necessary. Hard power, power that stems largely from a person's position of authority. So by virtue of me having authority, I have the power. Soft power is based on personal characteristics and interpersonal relationships. So when you look at it, this is a situation where I may not have the position, but when anytime somebody wants to do something in this area, they always come to me because I have soft power, and they understand that. Influence, the effect a person's actions have on the attitudes and values and beliefs and actions of others. It's how you affect them. 5 types of leader power. So you got the hard power, soft power. So let's look at hard power, legitimate, based on the leader holding a formal position. So by virtue them holding a position, they have legitimate power. Reward, when you look at the reward, based on the leaders having the ability to provide or withhold rewards. People conform in order to obtain desired rewards. So rewards can use for to provide or withhold to get things done. Coercive, based on the leader's ability to punish or recommend punishment. People follow orders to avoid punishment. Again, Genghis Khan, what did he say? The beatings will continue until morale improves. Soft power, expert, based on leaders' special knowledge or skills. People trust and respect the decisions because of the leader's expertise. Reverent, based on the leader's personal characteristics. People admire and respect the leader, like to be around them, and adopt the leader's viewpoint. So these, when you have people who have soft power, they might, just to make sure we're clear, they might not have legitimate authority. They might not be the manager, but they might be the person who works for the manager. But everybody in the group comes to them because they have the soft power. Responses to use of power, compliance, following the directions of a person with power, regardless of how much agreement there is with the person's directions. So basically, you tell me what I'm going to do, tell me what you want me to do, what I need to do, and I'm going to go ahead and do it. That's me complying. Resistance is basically me not doing it. I'm going to try my best to avoid it, and I won't do what you say. Commitment, adopting the leader's viewpoint, enthusiastically and carrying out the instruction. So when somebody's committed, this is when you no longer have to usually inspire, motivate them. Now you just give them a roadmap for them. Because see, they've already bought in. So just give them a roadmap of what you want them to do, and they'll do it because they're committed. And another thing is this can be contagious because they can also get others to buy in and commit. Responses to the use of power. So when you see the position power hard, you can see appropriate use, compliance. You can see when it's not appropriate, you have excessive use and you have resistance. So you have people who are going to comply when you use appropriate use, and you have excessive use, and you may have resistance from people. And and that's a problem. Now, when you have hard power, what you find is somebody says, well, because they're resisting, now I'm seeking to punish folks. So this can be problematic in multiple ways. Personal power, soft power. These are the ones who are I used to always ask this question. Tell me who, when I was trying to work with some people that I didn't know or was working with people for the first time, I was two questions I always wanted to know. Who's in charge? And then they would tell me. And then I would ask a second question. Now, who's running things? Some people look at me like, well, you just asked me who's in charge. Well, my point is, who's in charge with the hard power might not be the person that's running things. It might be the person with soft power. I want to know who that person is too. I want to know who's in charge, and I want to know who the person's making things happen. Who's got the soft power? A lot of times, that's two different people. Politics, activities to acquire, develop, and use power and other resources to obtain desired future outcomes when there is uncertainty or disagreement about choices. Frame, a perspective from which a leader views the world, influences how the leader interacts with followers, makes decisions, and exercises power. So it's when you see how they view the world and how they interact with people and make decisions, use the power. This is their frame. And that's individual. A lot of this got to do with who you are, where you're from, your personal experiences, as well as your education, training, and all the other things that come into play. And of course, the previous slide was politics. A lot of times when you have politics, anytime you utter the word politics, it always has a negative connotation. And people don't like to utter it, and they don't like to see it in the workplace because it's usually not assumed to be positive. 4 leader frames of reference. So we have a couple here. So we look at the structural mindset, sees organization as machine economics plans. Emphasis, goals, systems, efficiency, formal authority. Human resource, sees organizations as family, belonging, clan. Emphasis, people and relationships. 3, political mindset, sees organizations as juggle, power, and schemes. Emphasis, resource allocation, negotiation, coalition building. So symbolic, sees organizations as theater, spiritual meaning, and dreams. Emphasis, vision, culture, values, and inspiration. Now, when you look at these 4, I can tell you this. Well, first of all, I'll ask you, which one do you think might be the most important? And here's the statement I'm going to make. Believe it or not, there are times when a good leader will find themselves having to be any one of these, 1 through 4. Is situational. Six principles for asserting leader influence. So when we look at this, we'll start with use rational persuasion. It's when you sit down with people and you use rational persuasion to try to get them to understand something. Bottom line is, okay, this is not working. This is what we've been doing. Here's something I'm proposing to try. This may not be guaranteed to work, but it at least gives us a shot to get something that may work. That's a rational persuasion. Help people to like you. When you This is a fact, and I've experienced it and I've seen it. People will do more for you if they like you. I'm not going to argue that. I won't even debate that. I just tell you what I know and what I've lived in my careers. People will do more for you if they like you. If they don't like you, they would do less, or they would do the bare minimum. If they like you, they'll go beyond the call of duty to give you things or to help you. They'll help you sometimes even when you didn't know you needed help, or offer solutions and stuff because they like you. Rely on the rule of reciprocity. The rule of reciprocity is kind of like it's very similar to transactional. It's when you're doing things for people in the hopes of getting something from them. And that can be appropriate at times, depending upon what it is. Like the example I gave earlier, hey, you tell your group, hey, if you can get this project done in 30 days, I'm gonna make sure everybody gets a 5% pay increase. Develop allies. One of the things that's really important is developing allies. When you have allies, these are the people who will actually help you do things when you need to get them done. For instance, if there's something you need to get done, you don't have the time or you may not have the resources, but you know somebody else who does. If they are an ally, they'll do it for you. And listen when I say this. When they do it, they're not doing it expecting you to turn around and give them something right back, because they are an ally. Here's what an ally knows. I'm there for you, but I know you're there for me, through thick and thin and good and bad. Ask for what you want. One of the things that when you look into your influence, being direct with people. There's a term called being squirrely. People don't like squirrely folks. Basically mean you ask me for, or you're trying to ask me for something, but you're saying it in such a way I don't know what it is, because you won't be direct with me. Be direct with people and ask for what you want. Make sure there's no ambiguity. There's no misunderstanding about what it is I want. And when people know that, I know this may sound simple, but you would be shocked at how many times when people are like, well, this is what I thought you said. Well, this is what I thought you wanted, because they didn't know. The person was not clear about what they wanted, and they got something else. Appeal to the vision or higher purpose. This works with folks, particularly when people who are, if they're wired a certain way, if they're forward thinkers versus people who are pretty much status quo thinkers. Status quo thinkers, you can do this, it may not work as well with them, but people are forward thinkers. This is the thing you appeal with them, because they're looking at the vision, where we're trying to go, and the higher purpose, and they will buy into that. A lot of times you will find that these are the people who will be working with small groups of other folks, and they're actually leading them. So if you get that person, then they can go get the other folks to buy into what it is to help you with your influence. Personalized leaders versus socialized leaders. Personalized leaders exercise power for their own self-centered needs and interests. Aggrandizing, non-egalitarian, and explorative. So when you look at this, basically, everything that they do, for the most, not everything, most things they do is self-centered. And I'm going to give you an example. Where you would say, well, she did this for them and helped them out. Yes, there was a reason she did it for them. It got her, it was high profile. It got her recognized. It got her put in social media. It got her put on the news. It got her on the radar of the executive team. That's why she did it. She didn't do it before because she didn't think it was anything associated in it for her. So even when they do things nice for people, a lot of times it's about them in the long run. What am I getting out of this? And when I say this, listen to this with personalized leaders. There are times when you're dealing with them, and you have to deal with them sometimes depending upon who they are and what they do. One of the first things you should understand when you talk to them is this. Don't go in there and tell them what a great project this is going to be for the organization and for the department and how everybody's going to look good. And not tell them how they're going to personally benefit. Because if you do, there's a high probability they'll tell you no. Don't pass judgment. The bottom line is just know you're dealing with a personalized leader. And you know that in order for me to get something from this lady, I've got to tell her what's in it for her. How does she personally benefit? I can't just tell her it's going to be good for the organization. I got to tell her how does she personally benefit. Sometimes it's not only her, but how does her team personally benefit? Socialized leaders exercise power and benefit to benefit others in the organization as a whole, emphasizing they're very supportive. So when you look at this, this is about How do I make things better as a group as a whole? They never show you one sign that what they're doing is self-serving. And if somebody tries to make the allegation that what they are doing is self-serving, if they just look just a little bit, they'll find out that they're not. And they will do things that's for the benefit, for the good of the whole, for the organization or for the group. And because a lot of them do that and they're good at it, guess what happens? They get promotions and they get recognized, even though may not be seeking it, because they're recognized for their expertise and how they get things done. And those are the kind of leaders, when you look at those kind of leaders, those are the ones that, most people are attracted to. Guidelines for the responsibility of use of power. So there are guidelines. So if we look at the guidelines, is the action consistent with the organization's goals rather than being motivated purely by self-interest? So when you're looking at something, and let's say that something's got to go before 10 people, and they got to look at it. These are the questions they're going to be asking. The next one is, does this action respect the rights of individuals, groups, and affected by it? Does this action meet the standards of fairness and equity? Would you wish others to behave in the same way if the action affected you? So when you look at this responsible and ethical action, when you get to this right here, these are the questions that will be asked by executives and senior level leadership about something that you proposing to do or something that you're supposed to do. And a lot of times when somebody's self-centered and they are doing things that's primarily for them, they don't ask these questions because they are thinking in terms of, how do I make myself look good and how do I make a name for myself? And unfortunately, they don't take the rights of individuals and groups in effect who are affected by it. They don't look at fairness. They don't look at standards. And they don't think about, if the shoe is on the other foot, how would they feel? But as someone who's an executive, a senior leader who's reviewing and has to sign off on this stuff, they have to ask these questions. And this is a lot of times why things may not necessarily get shot down, but they get sent back to get reworked because there are some issues. That concludes this chapter.